My lords, today I have quite the treat for you all. We get to welcome the Stellaris game director himself, Eladrin, aka Stephen Murray. Welcome, Stephen. I'm really happy to have you here today to talk about the upcoming Stellaris DLC First Contact.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. So, what one feature from the upcoming DLC and the accompanying update, be it an origin or a tech, should the player base look forward to the most? And what gave yourself and the team the most enjoyment when you first experienced it?
So personally, I find the Broken Shackles origin to be, in particular, very near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It started off as a little project of mine during personal development time when we can work on whatever we want. I looked at the list of origins that we originally brainstormed for federations, and Escaped Slaves was sitting there. So I worked on the mechanical aspects of what would eventually turn into Broken Shackles before the content team took it and made it into this narrative masterpiece sort of thing. So it's like so much better than what I would have come up with, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. In general, for the players, the thing that may be the thing that you may find most enjoyable and new is some of the pre-FTL interactions. There's a lot of situations and things like that that can happen on the planets, and one of the main things that we've been trying to focus on here is that the player choices should have a significant effect on how things turn out.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Well, on that, so Neve mentioned in their video that we may want to teach pre-FTL species economics, which I thought was quite specific. Are you able to tell us more about how and why we would want to teach our pre-FTL neighbors?
So there are a couple of different ways you can go about this. One is you can just observe, stand back, and see if you can learn anything from them. Um, they're as while they're still uncorrupted by the general way the FTL species believe the world works and the galaxy works, they may be able to provide some like insights to things that you would think wouldn't work. These sort of pre-FTL insights that lead to some technologies. The other way of going about this is you may, reveal yourself to them, make friends with them, open up branch offices on their planet, whether they like it or not. In some cases, if your criminals think it, and basically profit off of them that way. One of the major things with First Contact is that we really want to give you more reasons to not just invade the planet.
Okay.
Pops and planets in general are a very, very valuable resource in Stellaris. So historically, it's been a little bit tough to, even if you're playing a utopian friendly empire, this is still free real estate, essentially,
For
because
sure, for sure.
so yeah, we wanted to make it more interesting to not do that. Sort of like how Overlord took the vassal subject relations and tried to make that something that was more of a like viable play style.
Oh well, it definitely did that. I mean, vassals are huge since Overlord. Well, so sticking with the pre-FTL vibe, are we going to see pre-FTL machine empires and or hive minds?
You will see hive minds. You can also potentially encounter the development of a hive mind through an organic singularity, that sort of thing. You
Wow.
can
Okay.
also see like early space age civilizations fall to a robot uprising, or that sort of thing.
Awesome.
When I was playing Broken Shackles internally, I had a very tragic tale where I finally found my homeworld, and an exterminator had taken over. It was very, very sad,
Oh, that's rough. Well,
and
so
I was
so
like, so much for utopian, right?
well, yeah, definitely. So on that, in Broken Shackles, there will be some recognition that you are supposed to go out and find your home world, and there will be a species out there that I assume is either the same or very, very closely related.
Yes, you will have a homeworld of your own in Broken Shackles. Um, and there is acknowledgement. Your people will try to encourage you to go find the fate of all of your homeworlds and things like that. And
Okay.
then there are events and stuff, like when you finally do find your homeworld. I don't want to spoil too much of it because it's a kind of a great experience.
Of course.
But some of your people might be homesick or something like that, and then you'll have to make the decision of, well, do we let them go? What does this mean?
Okay, well, I can't wait to play it. So, sticking with the primitives, are there any interactions when a new empire takes over a primitive site? So I'm thinking a situation where you've had a xenophobic or even genocidal race occupying a primitive system, and maybe they're doing things to the primitives that aren't particularly pleasant, and a xenophile comes along and liberates the system. Is there any sort of acknowledgement from those primitives that they're now not under the yoke of the xenophobes anymore, so to speak?
I'm not actually sure.
Something to find out then potentially.
But it's definitely something for me to find out, and something for us to do in the future if it isn't in there.
Cool.
So I'm afraid that I've got not a very good answer to that one.
No, that's cool. And then the last question I have on this topic is, I saw that there's an option in the Galcom called Exploitation Act, which seems extremely un-utopian, and I'm interested to hear more about that.
Well, it's kind of like there's no silver lining without a cloud sort of thing. We there's enough exploitation and dystopia out in sci-fi that we feel that like this is a valid play style, and our players kind of want the freedom to be able to do this sort of thing. If you want to go all Wayland Yutani and stuff like that on a planet. So yes, when we first added the nicer resolutions and things like that, but then we also always add the dark side of it
Sure.
because it would feel like it was missing if it wasn't there. The galactic community ranges from being super egalitarian and like noble to things that only sound that way. So the Exploitation Act definitely falls into the latter category.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, it did make me smile a little bit because you had your initial announcement video for First Contact, which was very much, utopian. We're good guys here. And then I think it was the second or the third video was, you just snuck that in a little bit. It did make me smile, especially because I think in the same video there was discussion around a train heist. Now, my understanding is that you have events tied to specific ages that the pre-FTL civilization is in. So I'm assuming there's an event for each age potentially.
I believe that they have several events in banded ages. So, like
Okay.
some of the atomic and early space age may share some events, but there may be a few that are early space age only, like their first space flight.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm very excited to go through them all because my understanding is you can steal tech from these pre FTL species, right?
It's not really stealing technology, but more through observation of them, you can learn things. Like,
Okay.
hey, they have developed a numbering system that is not the same that everyone else seems to use. Trinary
Oh
computing,
wow.
this sort of thing, or creative insulting. These are some of the these are
Creative
some of the insight
insulting.
technologies that you can theoretically learn.
Okay. Well, they sound really really fun. I can't wait. So if we could move on to this is more update, I think, rather than the DLC specifically, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. I've read a little bit about precursor technologies and archaeotech, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which has me massively intrigued because I love the archaeology system. I love the precursors. I think this is going to be amazing. So my understanding is that there's a change to minor artifacts. And you've teased some of it already from what I've seen. I've heard of a Zeroni Stormcaster, which reads and sounds to be incredibly overpowered. It's incredible. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll describe it to you. Essentially, a storm, like a space storm, is created in the system and removes all shields, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, that is actually what the Running Stormcaster will do. So we wanted to go back and improve archaeology in general and make minor artifacts more used in general. And this also gives us some technologies that you're not guaranteed to find in every playthrough. So, I mean, we like to say Stellaris is a vast universe of wonder and exploration and things like that. Except um, a lot of times that exploration and wonder kind of falls away after the beginning phases of the game. With our archaeo technologies, there are still things that you can learn and find and encounter even later on. And you don't know what the limits of your technology will be until you've actually found them. We've rebalanced the economy around minor artifacts. Everything that used to cost, small numbers are now significantly larger because they're no longer a finite resource, as long as you control the archaeology sites. And we'll probably continue to be playing with that in the custodian releases to come.
Okay. So you have to control the archaeology sites to get a continuous stream of minor artifacts, effectively. That's how you're going to feed.
Yeah, basically, when you finish an archaeology site, you will continue getting a trickle of minor artifacts from it.
Okay.
The exact values are still being tweaked. So
okay. Do you have a favorite either precursor and precursor tech, or each of one?
I think I actually want to leave most of those to be encountered in the game. I mean, I know that a lot of people will hit the wiki shortly after it goes up, but I don't want to spoil too much.
That's fair enough. I can 100% guarantee as soon as people read through. I mean, the Zeroni one was the one that blew my mind, but I mean the CyberX one seems super powerful as well. So along similar lines, I'm really interested to hear the changes to the Remnants origin, which happens to be my favorite origin. I really like that from like a role-playing perspective, less of a gameplay perspective. I think it's fantastic. And there's a new Ascension perk tied into that as well, the Archeo Engineers one. And the description, all I've seen is the description, which is for all you history lovers. So I'm incredibly intrigued to hear more about both of those.
So I believe that the change that they made with Remnants is that they will start with an Archeo engineering or the Archeo Technology Lab.
Yes, yeah, that's what I read.
Because it is very thematically appropriate for the Remnants origin. You're starting on a relic world. Of course, you're going to study these things. The Ascension perk increases the effects of your Archeo technologies and may add additional effects to them.
May add additional effects. Okay, that's quite vague but quite exciting. I quite like that. And the final thing on tech in general is the devolving beam, Colossus super weapon, which I think, I mean, it's one of those things that when you think of it, like, wow, how has this not been a thing? This is incredible. Especially using it on your friends in multiplayer, you just devolve their entire species. I think it's fantastic. But I was wondering, through what method can the player unlock this? Is this locked behind specific ethics, like some of the other Colossus weapons, or can everybody get it?
The easiest way to get it is through the On the Shoulders of Giants origin, because if you followed that storyline, this may come up somewhere in there. So that's the place where we put the guaranteed option of wandering into it, I believe.
Okay.
It may depend on which ending you end up with. I'm not entirely sure about that, but
Okay.
other than that, you may or may not acquire this. I don't remember if he made it in Archeo Technology or not. So you might discover it, you might not. But to make things more interesting, at least with Presapient life, we've changed how Presapients work. Instead of being added to planets via anomaly, they are created on galaxy generation across habitable worlds. Every habitable world has a % chance of having Presapient life on it, which means that they should be more common than they were before, and they'll also follow the slider for Presapient and pre-FTL civilizations.
Okay.
They can also work jobs in alien zoos now.
That's fantastic. I saw actually one of the tech icons was a small alien that looked like the alien from the Alien Zoo. That's absolutely fantastic. It's like on that, just this off the top of my head. If I devolved my friend's capital world, how long in game time would it take his citizens to reacquire intelligence, space age, go through all the ages? Could that happen?
The devolver beam will actually take them all the way back to pre-sapient, so they will be roughly intelligent as smart animals. It takes them longer than a Stellaris time span to.
Okay, so they would require me to go and uplift them.
Yes.
Okay, but I could uplift them again if I wanted to.
Oh yes, you could uplift them. There may be some lasting effects for a little while.
Okay. I mean,
because I believe we give them the forcefully devolved trait, so it's not Perfect.
It's like a stuck debuff. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you could devolve them, potentially uplift them, devolve them again. General.
This is a very utopian expansion,
Yeah,
you see.
exactly. And then the final
I
thing.
swear, when I played Broken Shackles, it was like I was the best good guy ever that I've ever played in a game of Stellaris. There is hope out there.
I mean, Broken Shackles and Payback both sound mostly utopian. It gave me really big Spartacus vibes, and anyone who knows the ending to Spartacus knows that it isn't particularly utopian. But the beginnings, I wonder if there's an Easter egg hidden in there. I am Spartacus, or something like that.
It can end badly if MSI is, in the next cluster over.
Yeah.
It can happen, but that would definitely be a challenging game.
Well, it sounds like fun. On to cloaking. So, will we be able to cloak all of our ships, corvettes, all the way up to Titans, Juggernauts, even Citadels, and potentially even planets?
So we've got cloaking. When you first get it, you'll be able to cloak your observation posts. That's
Okay,
very important, so they don't see them.
sure.
Your science vessels, which is important for doing, very sciencey things and getting through those annoying closed borders and things like that. And initially, you'll be restricted to the smaller ships, so corvettes and frigates. As you advance your technology, you can get higher. There are basically, you won't be cloaking your juggernauts or star bases or planets and things like that at this point. But it is fairly effective to take a fleet of frigates, cloak it, and when you go to war, have them act kind of like submarines would, where they appear out of nowhere, launch their torpedoes, and hope that it worked. We did experiment with defensive platforms, and that really didn't work well.
Cloak
Because
defensive platforms?
it was a
Wow.
great idea that just failed because the defense platforms were cloaked, which meant that the attacking fleet of torpedo frigates ignored them, went straight up to the starbase, and
Yeah,
then blew up the starbase and
yeah,
immediately flipped control of all the defense platforms.
yeah.
So that was one of those unintended consequences. Didn't work out well, so we decided, okay, let's not do this.
So,
Generally, it'll take auxiliary slots to put the cloaking devices in, and you'll want to cloak an entire fleet.
okay. So you could, in theory, have your corvettes and frigates cloaked, a battleship or two not cloaked, and to an opposing player, it would look like there was only a couple of battleships.
Um, Currently, for UX reasons, we ended up going with you would want to have a fleet of cloaked corvettes, frigates, destroyers, whatever,
Yeah.
and then the separate fleet of non.
Okay. Okay. Understood. And I mean, you mentioned it before, but so cloaked ships won't respect closed and open borders. They can just come and go as
That
they
is correct.
please.
To a degree, if
Okay.
the opponent has high military intel on you, they will know the locations of your fleet thanks to spies. And if they build detection star bases and stuff like that, they may still be able to uncloak your ships.
Got you. So there's going to be new scanning techs to counter cloaked techs.
There is a technology that allows you to build starbase modules, which will increase the cloaking detection in a system. And if you can detect enemy cloaking ships that you are hostile to, you will uncloak them. If you are detecting them outside of your space, in neutral space or else or whatever, you will see them as, hey, there's this cloaked fleet.
Okay. It sounds really cool. I mean, this last question I have on this: do fallen empires have access to cloaking? And will the crisis, potentially the contingency, have access to cloaking?
Currently, we don't have the crisis using any of the cloaking, but maybe we should. Hmm.
I mean, I figured the contingency use our tech, right? So maybe,
Yeah.
who knows?
Uh, the fallen empires will have the technology, but they are likely not going to use it until after they awaken, at which point I'm not sure if we set their AI personalities to use it or not.
Okay, cool. And then final two bonus questions was one was about the Dyson Sphere shirt that you're wearing in the announcement. How do people buy that? Because people want to buy that from what I've read. And the second one
The
is when does this launch? When can we play it?
So the Dyson Sphere shirt is on our merch store.
Okay.
Uh, we can give you a link to that.
Hmm.
And First Contact will be out with Canis Minor in Q1. I'm not giving an exact date yet, but stay tuned for a release date announcement at some point.
And that concludes the interview. A huge thanks to Stephen and his team at Paradox for giving me the opportunity. I hope you all enjoyed that and are looking forward to First Contact. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.